Good evening and welcome to Just the News. I'm Faye. Let's get straight to it. The Prime Minister addressed the country today at 5 p.m. talking about the second wave of COVID and the vaccination drive. He said the centre will now supply free vaccinations to all of the state governments starting the 21st of June. Private hospitals can also procure vaccinations directly from manufacturers, but they will be capped on how much they can charge, which is 150 rupees as service charges for providing that service. Now, this is a change and a rollback of the policy that was currently in place. The policy that was currently in place basically said that the central government would procure 50% of the vaccinations that are manufactured, 25% would be allowed for state governments to procure, and 25% for private hospitals and other private entities. Now, state governments obviously were competing with each other and also issuing global tenders, and we saw a massive shortage of vaccinations across the country. The government has now decided to roll that back. Now, the central government will procure 75% of the vaccinations distributed to the state governments that will then distribute it for free. So everyone above the age of 18 in our country will be entitled to a free vaccination starting the 21st of June. Up until now, it was only those people above the age of 45 that were getting free vaccinations, no questions asked. Unless, of course, you decide to go to a private hospital, in which case you will have to pay that service charge. The Prime Minister also said that work is on right now on a nasal vaccine. He also said that there are 7 companies in the country right now producing different types of vaccines, and the trials for 3 more vaccines are in advanced stages. The centre has also decided to extend the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana until Diwali. Under the scheme, 80 crore people will be provided free rations. In the meantime, India has reported 1 lakh new COVID cases in the last 24 hours and 2,427 deaths. Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Maharashtra reported the highest number of new cases. Tamil Nadu reported 20,421 cases and Maharashtra reported 12,557 cases. According to a report in the PTI, the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi, AIIMS Delhi, has started conducting trials for children between the ages of 2 and 18 for Bharat Biotech's Covaxin. The trial is being conducted on 525 patients. This comes after India's drug regulator granted permission for phase 2 and phase 3 of clinical trials for Covaxin for the age group 2 to 18 years on the 12th of May. The Union Health Ministry's Director General of Health Services has issued revised guidelines for COVID treatment and for the usage of drugs. In the new guidelines, the ministry has dropped all medications for asymptomatic patients completely. For mild cases, they've recommended that people only take medication for symptom relief. So basically medication that reduces your fever or eases the cold-like symptoms. Doctors have also been asked not to prescribe unnecessary tests for COVID patients like CT scans. The new guidelines on steroids say steroids are indicated only for hospitalized, moderately severe and critically ill COVID cases. Steroids should be used at the right time, in the right dose, for the right duration. Self-medication of steroids is to be avoided completely. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal on Monday launched a door-to-door survey to vaccinate people above the age of 45 at their polling booths. Now, Kejriwal said that if there is no shortage of vaccine, everyone above 45 in Delhi will be vaccinated within 4 weeks. He said polling booth officers will be enlisted by the Delhi government to go door to door in their wards, allotting slots to everyone above the age of 45 to get vaccinated. He's been quoted saying very few people are turning up at the vaccine centres above the age of 45. So we've decided instead of waiting for them to come, we will go to them for the vaccination. Meanwhile, the Delhi government has said that Bharat Biotech's Covaxin will only be administered in the second dose to people within the age group of 18 to 44. All private hospitals and nursing homes have been told not to administer Bharat Biotech's Covaxin for those coming in for their first dose. Few states now have changed their COVID restrictions. Andhra Pradesh has extended its curfew until the 20th of June. The curfew has been relaxed by 2 hours, which means curfew comes in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon until 6 a.m. the next morning. Haryana has extended its lockdown until the 14th of June. It's eased some restrictions. Shopping malls, bars, restaurants to be open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. at 50% seating capacity. Uttarakhand has extended its COVID regulations until the 15th of June. Maharashtra has begun its 5-level unlocking plan today, where each district and each city is given is assigned a level, and based on the level, based on the number of cases, they fall within a certain category of unlocking. Delhi Chief Minister has announced that markets will reopen in the national capital. Metro services will resume from the 7th of June. Uttar Pradesh has lifted restrictions in all districts except Meerut, Saharanpur, and Gorakhpur. In other news, away from COVID, Lakshadweep's residents have begun a 12-hour hunger strike today to protest against the Lakshadweep Development Authority regulation that was introduced by Lakshadweep's Administrator of Government, Praful Koda Patel. All shops, establishments, especially except emergency services, have stayed closed. There have been, of course, visuals on social media of Lakshadweep residents holding up placards in protest on the beaches, in their homes, even underwater. In the meantime, a group of 93 former civil servants have written to the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, flagging issues in these regulations that have been proposed for the islands of Lakshadweep. According to that letter, the developments are disturbing because they constitute, and I quote, an onslaught on the very fabric of Lakshadweep society, economy, and landscape, as if the islands were just a piece of real estate for tourists and tourism investors for the outside world. The letter has said that the Lakshadweep Development Authority regulation, which aims to build tourism, hotels, resorts, and beachfronts like the Maldives model, doesn't take into consideration the differences between Lakshadweep and Maldives in size, population, the number of islands, and their spread. It also says, and I quote, these drafts have been introduced without local consultation and are presently with the Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India, for approvals. Each of these measures smacks not of development but of alien and arbitrary policy making in violation with the established practices that respect the environment and the society in Lakshadweep. Quick recap of what has happened so far. Praful Koda Patel, the former Home Minister of Gujarat, is the first politician to be appointed Administrator of Lakshadweep. It's a position that was up until now occupied by IAS officers or by bureaucrats. Now, he's introduced several regulations, including a ban on beef products for a population that's more than 90% Muslim, lifting restrictions on alcohol, and a new development authority that allows the government also through some regulations to take over private land belonging to citizens in order for development. All of these things are being protested heavily by the citizens of Lakshadweep. India has ranked 117 on the Sustainable Development Goals. We've slipped 2 spots from last year. Last year we were 115 out of 193 countries, which is not great. This year we're even worse. We rank now below countries like Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. Now, the Sustainable Development Goals ranking is based on targets of removal of hunger, achieving food security, gender equality, building resilient infrastructure, promoting inclusive, sustainable industrialization, and fostering innovation, among many other things. State-wise, Jharkhand and Bihar were the worst performers. Kerala Himachal Pradesh and Chandigarh were the best performing states. Meanwhile, Uttarakhand has now emerged as one of the worst performing states in terms of sex ratio at birth, which is the number of baby girls born vis-a-vis the number of baby boys. Now, across the country, our national average is 899, which means for every 1,000 boys that are born, we only have 899 girls, which effectively means there are sex-selective abortions taking place, effectively killing baby girls before they're born. The sex ratio in Uttarakhand was 840, which is much, much worse. Justice Anand Venkateshan of the Madras High Court has issued guidelines to state and central governments to ensure that LGBTQIA+ persons in consensual relationships are not harassed. Now, he was dealing with a petition that was placed before the court of a same-sex couple, 2 women, who were seeking protection from police harassment and from their parents who wanted to separate them while they were in a consensual relationship. These are 2 adults in a consensual relationship. Justice Venkatesh voluntarily went through psychoeducational sessions with counselors to help him understand better. He conducted interactions with people from the community to understand their emotions better before he wrote out his order. And while issuing his guidelines, he said, and I quote, "Ignorance is no justification for normalizing any form of discrimination," end quote. He said in the judgment, and this was amazingly humble of him, he said, "I have no hesitation in accepting that I too belong to the majority of commoners who are yet to comprehend homosexuality completely. The society and my upbringing have always treated the terms homosexual, gay, and lesbian as anathema. A majority of society would stand in the same position of ignorance and perceived notions." He has written out guidelines which, if implemented correctly, should make a massive difference to the lives of the members of the LGBTQI community in India. This is roughly what the guidelines say. I've condensed it for you. When the police gets a complaint regarding a missing person, a woman or a man or a girl who is missing, but actually finds that the individual is in a consenting relationship and is a member of the LGBTQI community, the police should close that complaint without any harassment to the individual. The Ministry of Social Justice should enlist the help of NGOs with sufficient expertise to handle issues faced by members of the LGBTQI community. And when someone faces issues, they should be able to approach the enlisted NGOs for safeguarding and protecting their rights. The problem should be addressed depending on the facts of each case, using counseling, monetary support, or legal assistance, whichever is necessary, and with the help of legal and the police. For accommodation for people who are thrown out of their homes or excommunicated from their families, suitable changes need to be made for existing government shelters, short stay homes, Anganwadi shelters, and shelter homes for transgender persons to accommodate any and every member of the LGBTQI community in need of shelter. Governments, in consultation with other ministries, must devise measures and policies needed to eliminate prejudices against the LGBTQI community. Governments must also introduce sensitization programs to create awareness about the community. Of course, in Pride Month, this is a positive thing to read out to you. Let's take a look now at news coming in from the world of business. Fuel prices have been increased for the second time in the month of June. And remember, in the month of May, it was increased 17 times. This is where we are right now. In Mumbai, a litre of petrol will cost you 101 rupees and 50 paise, and diesel will be 95 rupees and 31 paise. These are all-time highs. In Delhi, petrol is 94 rupees 76 paise, diesel is 85 rupees and 66 paise. The premium price of petrol has crossed 100 rupees in several districts of Kerala. The prices are eye-watering at this point. In the meantime, Petroleum Minister of the Government of India, Dharmendra Pradhan, has issued a statement today quoted by PTI. He has said, and I quote, "Prices of petroleum products have gone up. The main reason is that the price of crude has gone to over $70 a barrel in the international market. This negatively impacts consumers here as India imports 80% of its oil requirement." Now, what the minister has said is true, but this is a half-truth. In spite of the increase of price of crude, which has increased because most of the other countries now vaccinated are opening up, they're moving around, and so the demand for fuel is coming back. The price has gone up. But including the price that has gone up, the price for petrol anywhere in the country should be no more than 40 rupees a litre, including all of the commissions and the transport and the refining charges. From 37.5 to where we are right now at 100, everything is state and central taxes. And I want to give you an understanding of this. Back in 2014, the excise duty, which is the tax that is levied on petrol per litre by the government of India, was less than 10 rupees. It was 9.5 rupees. It has been increased consecutively over the last few years, and it is now 32 rupees and 90 paise. So we've gone up from about 10 rupees to 32 rupees per litre, and that is really where that massive margin is. So when global crude prices fell sharply last year, when the whole world was in a lockdown, it came down to nearly $20 a barrel from the 70 it is right now. the government of India increased its taxes by 13 rupees per litre to absorb that difference and not pass it on to the Indian citizen. And now when the price of crude has started to go up, the total price of our fuel has gone up as well, and we are still paying the highest taxes on fuel anywhere in the world. The city of Mumbai pays double what the city of New York pays for a litre of fuel. Looking at international news coming in from across the world, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos will take his brother with him and travel to space on the 20th of July this year on Blue Origin's first manned flight called New Shepard. This is also the 52nd anniversary of Apollo 11's moon landing. In an Instagram post, Bezos has said, and I quote, "Ever since I was 5 years old, I have dreamed of traveling to space. On the 20th of July, I will take the journey with my brother, the greatest adventure with my best friend," end quote. Blue Origin is auctioning off a seat in the capsule to the highest bid, which stands at $2.8 million as of Monday morning. The auction will conclude on the 12th of June. Taking a look now at news coming in from the world of sports, two of tennis's biggest stars, Serena Williams and Roger Federer, are both out of the French Open ahead of the quarterfinals. Federer withdrew from the competition ahead of his Monday match, saying, and I quote, "After 2 knee surgeries and over a year of rehabilitation, it's important I listen to my body and make sure I don't push myself too quickly on my road to recovery," end quote. Serena Williams lost out to Kazakhstan's Elena Rybakina on Sunday. Serena Williams has won 23 Grand Slam singles and Federer has won 20. Earlier, Japan's Naomi Osaka had withdrawn from the French Open as well. One piece of positive news before we leave you for today. Now, after COVID, hot on the heels of COVID, was the epidemic of black fungus or mucormycosis. And we saw that the drug used for mucormycosis was in short supply and very, very expensive. Now, the average bill for that treatment was coming up to 35,000 rupees in the very least for just the daily medication cost. Now, it turns out that surgeons in Pune have figured out how to bring down that cost from 35,000 rupees every day to 350 rupees every day. It's a little complicated, but apparently this drug, which is amphotericin, is available in 2 forms: the conventional form, which is the cheaper one, and the liposomal form, which is a more complicated one. But they have figured out, the doctors have figured out, that if there are careful blood tests that are analyzed every day or every alternate day to rule out drug toxicity in kidneys, it's possible to use the conventional form to treat black fungus. Now, Pune surgeon Dr. Samir Joshi has said he has treated 201 patients and 85 of them have recovered through the conventional use of this drug. It's good news for many, many families who are struggling to actually source the drug and to pay for it. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Of course, remember the source articles of all of the stories I read out to you are in the description of our YouTube video. While you're there, please also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out the other conversations that we've put up. My colleague Amita has done a conversation with environmental activist Disha Ravi that's worth listening to. We've also uploaded a conversation recently about India's treatment of doctors at this time. Doctors are being assaulted all over the country. There is, of course, Mr. Ramdev questioning allopathic medicine and questioning the role of doctors. And finally, the doctors in Madhya Pradesh who are on strike because they say they're not being paid enough and they're not being given free treatment if they get COVID. Is India treating its doctors badly at a time when we should be looking after them? That conversation is on our YouTube page as well. Do take a look at it. Leave us a word of encouragement and feedback. Thank you for watching. Good night.